I'm fighting for that little girl who never had someone fight for her. But that feeling when I won, I would say
Wow.
it's worth it.
Wow.
That was such a healing moment. That's the one biggest takeaway that I've had on my journey so far. That's just left an indelible mark on me.
You brought up, I think that a lot of people have said, right, which is that jiu-jitsu is healing, is therapeutic.
Yeah.
Wow. I can only imagine like how much that win meant to you. Before we get into the interview with Yvette, and trust me, you want to watch it because she drops so many wisdom nuggets all throughout the interview. And you definitely got to watch it to the end because that's probably the most surprising wisdom nugget that I think she shared with us. I want to cover two things, right? There's been a lot of questions around why I created this martial arts story series. And I think that's a fair question to address. And I also want to talk about why you should watch today's martial arts story. So, the first thing, I decided to do it for two people. And my first target here is martial arts school owners. And the reason why I created this series is to show martial arts school owners the importance of having their students share their martial arts transformational stories and how powerful they can be versus them trying to sell their own schools to other potential new students. There's so many more interviews that I'm still working on, actually editing, but I have already completed. And trust me, you want to watch these series. Now, the second thing, why I think you should watch Yvette's story, honestly, I think it's one of the most inspirational stories that I've covered so far. I would go as far to say that it's probably one of the most inspirational stories I've ever heard. And that honestly says a lot. I've talked to a lot of people, and I don't know if this is a good thing, but a lot of people have shared with me their stories. And this is by far one of the most impactful and inspiring. So I really hope you watch it till the end. The other thing is that for me, I was shocked. Like what led her to start her martial arts journey? It was interesting. It was refreshing. It was surprising. It just left me at awe. But I think what touched me even more, it was her. Even now, as I remember it, like it still touches me, and I hope that it touches you because it is so powerful, right? Like the healing that happened with her through martial arts. And the other thing is that personally, I think, probably told her this after the interview, I think Yvette is in the wrong career path. And she shares, in this interview what she does for a living, but I think she shouldn't be doing that. I honestly think she should be a motivational speaker because she drops so many wisdom nuggets and the way she shares them is so casual, right? That I had to stop her, a lot of times to say, hold up, like let's break down what you're saying because it's taken me over 35 years to really understand what you're saying. And I feel like it was an honor to honestly, be able to interview Yvette. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy the interview. All right, Yvette, thank you so much. I really appreciated, you accepting the invite and, sharing your story about martial arts. I can't wait to hear it. I hope that when people listen to your story, they feel inspired and, they're able to break that barrier of resistance that, they're probably going through right now. So with that being said, let's get into it. My first question is, how old are you and where do you call home? You can give us a ballpark. It's okay.
I'll tell
Um,
you my age. I'm
okay.
46.
You look
Um,
amazing for 46.
Thank you. The secret is jujitsu and working out and being happy.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, I live in North Jersey. I was born and raised in New York City, and I've been in
Okay.
Jersey for almost 20 years.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Wow. So I'm asking this question, given your background, is like perfect. So, what do you do for a living? How long you been doing it? If you don't mind sharing that. I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you. And do you feel that what you do for a living has any commonality with martial arts, or do you feel like martial arts influences or vice versa?
I'm a sales rep for an accessory company in New York City.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I don't know if there's really any parallels that you can draw between what I do and jujitsu. Um,
Yeah,
you kind of, I guess in both scenarios, you kind of have to think on your toes, and you have to improvise a lot. So I guess that's where you can kind of draw similarities, but that's probably about it.
I would say that's a big one. I mean, that's definitely a big one. So I don't have any experience as a sales person. But I guess my question is like, what made you want to take that path in sales? Because a lot of people hear that and it can be intimidating, right? Because you really got to put yourself out there. From what I've heard and what I've seen, working in finance, it's a really personal job because when they say no, it's almost like them saying no to you. But like what made you want to take this career path? And more importantly, like, what has kept you in it?
So, to be honest, I never wanted to do sales. So,
Mm,
I went to school for advertising. And while I was in school, I met a woman who was my manager while I was working in retail.
mm,
And she convinced me over about, I think, the course of a year to join her on this end
mm,
of retail. Um, I liked working in the public. I liked, interacting with people. I never liked selling. So like even in the retail stores, I was always the last one to
yeah,
want to approach a customer. I was very happy like doing like merchandising and like being behind the register, but never like interacting with customers. Like I never wanted to influence anyone to try to buy anything.
yeah.
So I came aboard when I had my daughter here
Mhm,
and was my manager's assistant.
mhm,
And I was like, fine, I'll be your assistant, but I definitely don't want to go into sales.
mhm,
But my
mhm.
boss was like, I definitely see you in sales. And I was like, absolutely not. Um,
I'm
and
curious, why do you think she saw you in sales before you didn't see yourself in it?
I have no
Oh.
idea. And like, it's funny, 'cause even to this day, I've never questioned him, but he just had like this, I guess, this gut feeling that I would do well in it. It took me a long time. So I've been here for 23 years. It took me a long time. It took me about a good 5 to 7 years to really enjoy sales.
Mm,
So I grew up in the Bronx. I,
mm,
grew up struggling. We were on welfare. Like I struggled to make ends meet. And I always thought that $10 an hour was a lot of money. Like I worked at McDonald's.
mm,
I was always a hard worker, so that was never an issue. I never understood what making a lot of money meant. And I never understood what being the governor of your own income meant. So
mm.
when I really started doing well in sales and you're seeing incremental growth year to year, that
Nice.
really incentivized me.
Mm,
When I was able to afford a house, when I was able to move out of New York City, and have
yeah.
kids, I think that's what really helped my sales career flourish. So,
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, and I would say that, from what you're saying too, like sales wasn't easy for you. I don't think it's ever easy for anyone. I'd be surprised if for someone sales comes easily, but you know, I guess that kind of also speaks to martial arts, like that resilience, in you to stay in the game. And 23 years, that's a whole career in sales, you
yeah.
know?
And
So yeah, go ahead, man. Sorry.
it's funny. I don't think that I'd be suitable now for any other career path other than sales in any other facet, I just think that it's become such a big part of me that
Yeah,
it just makes sense,
gotcha.
obviously after the amount of time that I've been doing it, but
Gotcha.
it feels natural to me at this point.
Gotcha. And I mean, it's such a beautiful transformational story, at least career-wise, right? To hear that, you came from the Bronx, that you had these, jobs that were very manual and probably not paying as much as where you are. And you couldn't even conceive like making higher income and, you controlling, like you said, like being the governor of your own destiny and how much money you can make. But then from there, like going on and being able to buy your own house, being able to provide for your family. And I can imagine probably in ways that you didn't even think about, right?
Right.
Like that's powerful. That is really amazing. Like that I think that that transformation story itself speaks volumes, I would say, about you, you know? And I love it, like, like a fellow New Yorker succeeding and, kicking butt. That's awesome. So I want to switch gears a little bit, and talk about like what do you do outside of work when you're not, working and when you're not doing jujitsu? What do you like to do?
So a lot of my time is devoted to being a mom. So I spend a lot of time with my kids. Well, mainly my son. My
Yeah.
daughter moved to Florida.
Gotcha.
So
And people don't know this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but and I've never met, I don't think I've ever met your daughter in person, but whoever meets your daughter and sees you, like I would swear you guys are sisters. That's what I'm saying. You look really good for 46. So it's fire. So I mean, she got you to look forward to, like probably, she'll age, similarly.
yeah, she takes care of herself. So again, it's just I'm not a big drinker, not a big smoker. Always
Yeah.
try to take care of myself and exercise and eat well. So, but yeah, so outside of jujitsu, my hobbies are definitely limited, but I enjoy cycling. I do rock climbing. I paint, roller skate,
Really?
travel. Yeah, I roller skate a lot. I like to bowl.
I
So
didn't know you paint. That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. I do, a bunch.
Everything is cool, I guess.
Yeah, but it's just a lot of little stuff. I think just kind of collectively are a bunch of.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go to, I guess, the one question regarding like painting. Like what do you like to do? Is there a particular style you like to paint? Do you feel like there's any connection between painting and jujitsu? Yeah, I'm just curious about that.
No, I think it's more for me meditative. Like I use a lot of watercolors.
Mm. Hmm,
Um, I it's not often that I get the opportunity to paint. I mean, I still
hmm.
have canvas and unused
Yeah,
paints downstairs in my basement, but
yeah.
um I do enjoy it. It's a lot of like seascapes and nature that like I
Nice.
paint. I used to do a lot more when I was younger, but I enjoy it.
Gotcha, gotcha. And actually, one thing my brain is just like present, like, oh, you should ask her this. But I'm curious, like, you mentioned that you had a background in advertising, right? Educational background. Do you feel that that educational background helped you when it came to doing sales?
I guess a little bit. There are definitely some parallels with that. It's definitely some sort of persuasion, right?
Hmm,
Um,
hmm, hmm.
Persuading someone within advertising to buy a product, and it's the same concept within sales. So yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so, like just trying to put everything together, that I've heard so far, like, you're from New York City, you're from the Bronx, you definitely forged your way. You're a hard worker, 23 years in sales. I guess my question here is, and as a fellow Latin person as well, like, what do you feel like your values or principles from your personal life that motivated you to do martial arts? Do you feel like there's any connection between, your upbringing and where you grew up, your career path that pushed you into martial arts?
So it's funny, I never did sports when I was younger. I was always a bit of a tomboy. So like
Hmm,
I like being playful.
hmm,
I like, um, running around doing stuff like that, but I was never into sports.
hmm, hmm.
So I had signed my son up at another academy and he did jujitsu. And my son and I have a very fun relationship. So like I'm a shit talker with him. So he was doing it and he had got up to being a one stripe. So I would sit and watch and I was like, this looks so easy. I was like, I bet you I can and I
Oh.
could beat your ass. And he was like, yeah, okay. So he used to spend summers with his father.
Hmm.
So I told him, I said, you're gonna go away for the summer. I'm gonna join and do jujitsu and be the same rank when you get back.
No.
And I did.
Wow.
So a friend had told me about Silver Fox, so that's
Okay.
I joined, and
Gotcha.
there wasn't a huge motivating factor for me to join
Hmm,
jujitsu.
hmm.
I knew really very little about it other than my son's interest in it. It's become something that's become such a vital part of my life now.
Yeah.
But it definitely was something I kind of stumbled upon. So
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like sometimes some of the most interesting and worthwhile experiences in life, you end up just stumbling upon them, at least from my experience. But I love that, like you ended up going into jujitsu because you wanted to back up your shit talking. I think that's pretty cool. Oh, sorry, I lost internet connection there, but yeah, I think the last thing I was saying was, like I think it's a beautiful thing that you ended up joining, jujitsu because you wanted to back talk your shit talking. Um, and I think that that's really cool. Now, the question is, were you one stripe when your son
I
came back?
was.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh
No.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So, dang. I mean, I don't know. Like, okay, so how long was he gone? Was he just gone for the summer?
Yeah, he was gone for 2 months. So I joined right before he left. And
Yeah.
I think I went so much that I kind of like accelerated like
Oh, I
me.
was gonna say, yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, like from my experience going to to Silver Fox, and you were one stripe in the span of 2 months, that means you were there like almost every day, a
Yeah.
bunch of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Oh
Full
my goodness.
commitment.
So hold on, what was his reaction? What did he say to you?
He was upset.
Screw you, mom. Oh my goodness.
There's a lesson there, right? Like I could back
Yeah.
up my shit talking.
Oh yeah, listen. If you ever shit talk, I'm gonna be like, "Yep, I believe it." She'll back it up. She'll back it up. That's
But
crazy. So I'm curious, like, was there, since you were like determined to back it up, like, was there like any friction or any hesitation, any concerns before starting, jujitsu, or not really? You just went with it, and.
no, my philosophy in life, unfortunately, it doesn't always go in a positive manner. I'm kind of a jump feet first kind of girl, you know.
Okay.
So, I enjoy taking risks, like, and with jujitsu, like, what was the worst that was going to happen? Like, I tried it. Like, if I didn't like it, it's not like it was something that had a high risk. I could have just stopped doing it if I didn't like it. So, and there's so many positives to it that, like, I really saw like the benefit to it. Like, when I started, I was overweight and I was already on a weight loss journey. So I saw the benefit of me being able to add this as like a fitness program.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
I wanted to gain more self-confidence. So that also was another plus. And I also wanted it for a social aspect, like
mhm.
in your 40s, you can't meet, new friends as easily as you could if you were in your 20s or in like in your teens. So there were so many upsides to it that I just was like, this will be good, no matter what happens. And it really has turned out to be better than I expected. So
I would say so, 100%. Were there and that says a lot about your character, but were there any challenges that you faced when you first started? Like, and now I'm just focusing on those 2 months before you got that stripe. But I mean, we can go beyond that. Like, were there any challenges that you had in the beginning of your journey that you didn't expect? And like, I'm curious, like, if there were, like, how did you overcome them?
I don't think there really were.
Mm,
I
okay,
think
okay.
I think because everyone at Silver Fox was so welcoming,
Hmm, hmm,
and just the structure of the academy is the way that it is. I think it sets you up for success. Like
hmm,
I've heard
hmm,
stories where other academies have you roll right away,
hmm.
not as welcoming. And I think if I would have been put in those type of scenarios, I probably wouldn't have, stayed. Um,
Yeah,
so I think it just, like we were saying earlier, like Silver Fox is such a unique place.
yes.
Like, you do feel the magic of the culture that's there.
Hmm,
How welcoming everyone is, what Fox has cultivated.
hmm,
And
hmm.
it's so special and unique that it just, it feels like home from the moment that you're there. So,
For sure, for sure. I mean, I left that place because that's where I met you, but I'm I'm very grateful for everything that I was able to learn there and the people that I met. And obviously, like I still do my best to keep in touch with you. And I would be lying if I didn't tell you that I miss you and I miss everyone. I think we were just talking about that before I started the interview, but I really mean it. It's a great place. And I mean, you're right. It's the caliber of the instructions is really high. Like Silver Fox, he comes from the Hansel Gracie Academy. So it's top notch. But yeah, I guess, my question here is, you just threw me off because now you really got me just thinking about the culture and like all these memories. And I was just talking to you about like how I missed like hanging out with you guys
Yeah.
after, grappling. But now I'm in my feelings. God dang it.
Sorry.
Uh no, I can't. But I guess, like you mentioned that you were already on a weight loss journey, right? And that was one of the upsides. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm curious, like, what were some of the physical changes that you experienced in the beginning of your journey? I'm just making the assumption that weight loss was part of that because when I met you, I think I remember like the first week I started, like you had just gotten promoted to blue belt, and when I saw you, like you were already in shape. I mean, I don't know you from anything else, so like for me, like you've always looked the way you look. So I guess I'm making that assumption. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to call out too is that yes. It is, you could tell immediately that Silver Fox is a really great school because as you said, they don't let you roll in the beginning. And so I don't know if you knew this, but I actually started at a UFC gym. And in those places, like when I was they were letting me roll like from day one, and I didn't know my head from my I
Right.
know nothing, like, and I almost got hurt because like somebody like did a roll on me and they almost popped my
Right.
elbow. I mean my shoulder, and that's when I realized like okay, like I was telling this to my friend, and my friend was like, "Yeah, man, like you should not be rolling. You just started a month in."
What are you doing?
Yes, he's like, "You don't know what you're doing. You're gonna get yourself hurt, and you're probably gonna get somebody else hurt."
Right.
So, he mentioned, he was like, try to find a school that is connected in some way or form to the Gracie family.
Right.
If you do that, you'll be all right. And
Right.
and that's kind of where I did a search and I found Silver Fox. But yes, I think that's one really important thing to call out. Like that should be a red flag. Like if you walk into a school, and I'm just speaking about jiu-jitsu and you're grappling day one, you should really think about it because, like I said, you're probably going to hurt yourself or end up, hurting someone,
Right.
you know? So, yes, now going back to, your physical changes that you experience, like I mentioned, I'm assuming weight loss was one of them, but were there other physical changes in the, beginning of your journey or, up until this point?
No, weight loss definitely was one of them. And again, just going back to the fact that I've never done any really any type of sports, just understanding what my body was capable of, right? And understanding like beyond just the strength aspect, like ways that my body could move was just really impressive. And like what I was able to do, just was really eye-opening and gave me a really good sense of worth. Even like especially again at my age, being able to move in certain ways and not feeling limited and what I can do was just really awesome. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and also like you, in my opinion, I would say like you went in guns blazing in a positive way. Like because when it was my first week and I heard about you that, you had just come back from a competition. It was your first competition and you won, And I think it was that class when you got promoted to blue belt, when I had just started, and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty badass. So like I heard that and I remember like that stuck to me, like I was like, oh damn, like I don't know. I wonder if I can do that. But I didn't. Like I first competition I failed epically. But it was a learning experience. Anyway, so I guess, what has been and you kind of already talked about this, but what has been, talk to me about your mental and emotional transformation from, in your personal life like after starting martial arts.
it definitely has had a tremendous positive impact on my mental health. So
Mm,
touching on like competition. So when I first started,
yeah.
I was really close with another teammate. And she really was the reason why I competed. Her
Mm,
with one of the instructors really inspired me, but she said something that kind of really struck a chord. You know, like when we're younger, especially if unfortunately you come from a place where you've been in an abusive household, like you, if you've never dealt with your trauma, you grow up to be the adult that has to resolve whatever residual effects that leaves behind. And she says something
facts.
to me that was the catalyst for me competing. And she says, because she had already decided she was competing, and she says, I'm fighting for that little girl who never had someone fight for her. And that to me was the reason why I competed.
God
So,
damn.
so I I think I pushed myself so hard because I didn't want to let that little girl down.
Yeah.
And I I probably went a little too hard because I don't know if I told you, like, I trained for my competition probably way more than I should have. Like, I was going probably like 8 to 11 times a week. So like
Wow.
like open
Wow.
open mat double to triple times a day because I really wanted to win because I didn't want to let myself down.
Mm,
Was that the right thing to do? I don't know. But that feeling when I won, I would say
wow.
it's worth it.
Wow.
That was such a healing moment. And not that it was the same, you know, and you can't compare a competition to say that that heals past trauma. But there is something cathartic when you can say, I finally was able to stand up for myself and heal myself. And I think that's the one biggest takeaway that I've had on my journey so far. That's just left an indelible mark on me, you know, just even at my age, being able to take control of my safety, my well-being is such a rewarding feeling. So yeah, so
God dang. Like you almost had me crying. And I mean, I feel like I shouldn't even keep on going with the interview. Like what else do I ask? Like that's
sorry.
deep. No, but that is deep on so many levels. And I think and I can speak and I'll elaborate more why that's so deep. Because the reason why I know that is because of at least in my experience, the work I had to do in therapy, right? And, I had a very traumatic experience growing up. I had PTSD afterwards. And I found out while I was in therapy that if I wanted to heal, as you're saying, like I had to talk to that little version of me. And I think that, and I've had this conversation with many people. And all the people that I talk to, and I'm blessed that, my fiance, like she's a therapist. So, she talked to me, more in depth about this, but we all walk around with that little kid in us.
Yeah.
Like that little kid, that little version of us, that little 5, 6, 7 year old, however old that little one version of us was when we went through traumatic experiences, it stays there. And you're right. Like who we become as adults is a response to that if
Yeah.
we don't heal, if we don't deal with it. Yeah, and I think that, you brought up such I think that a lot of people have said, right, which is that jujitsu is healing, is therapeutic,
Yeah.
you know? And wow, I can only imagine like how much that win meant to you. And I think it's also like so powerful because you knew that you can stand up for yourself, that you were literally able to prove it to yourself that you can defend yourself, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And that is powerful. I think it's powerful for men, but so much more powerful for women. And shit, I don't know what else to ask. Oh, that's like I said, there are so many lessons that one can draw from that. And I'll tell you, like one thing I've also learned in therapy is that age has nothing to do with maturity. Like just because you're a certain age doesn't mean that you're mature. But from what you shared, like you were able to mature in such a fast. I mean, you've all, from what I know, you've always been mature, but like healing just matured you so much more. Like God knows how many hours, how many years of therapy that I probably like fast forwarded, in my opinion. I might be wrong. But yeah, I mean that's powerful. That's really powerful. I guess my question now, shifting gears a little bit, because I do want to ask you other questions like, what were some of the biggest challenges that you experience, or like probably are you having any other challenges? I mean, you mentioned that you didn't have challenges in the beginning. I'm curious, like now, and if it's okay, me sharing, like you're a purple belt. So like, are you? And congratulations, because you just got your purple not too long ago, and that's amazing. But I'm curious, like, are you having any current challenges as a purple belt, or not really? You just taking it in?
Yes, I was talking to like some of the boys, and I think that we kind of all feel like a sense of imposter syndrome, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like I think that when you're a white belt, you're so excited to get that stripe. And
Hmm.
you feel like, yes, I've earned it. And I'm going through each step and each milestone and like I get it. And I'm putting in my time and like I'm putting in my time. So like
Yeah.
I'm getting it. But then you get to a blue belt and you're expected to start building your skill set. And you're kind of looked at differently, in my opinion. And I
Hmm.
could be wrong, but like this is how I feel. And you're kind of looked at expecting to know more. So magnify that more so as a purple belt. So I think where I'm at, I'm definitely feeling a sense of calm in where I'm at with my jujitsu,
Hmm. Hmm.
understanding like where I've been, where I'm currently at, the mistakes I've made, what I need to improve upon, and how much further I have to go still. Uh,
Hmm.
and just enjoying the journey and not being so hard on myself. Because I think when that happens, when I analyze it, when I start beating myself up, is when I don't like jujitsu. Um,
Hmm.
and just not taking it seriously. I've always put a lot of pressure on myself because I could definitely be a perfectionist, but
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
understanding that this is something that I enjoy and I love, and that's something I want to continue to do for years. So
For
I think
sure.
the only thing that I'm like facing and trying to come to terms with just enjoying the ride.
Yeah. Again, I mean, with that one answer, like you answer a bunch of other questions I had, which is, I mean, I guess is great. But obviously, like you've been able to be more self-aware, from what you're sharing. Um, but if you can elaborate more, like how do you feel that martial arts has helped you become more self-aware? Are there any particular experiences or moments that you feel like, you know, has helped you in that sense?
I think the one thing when I was looking at the questions,
Hmm.
I think I have to compare understanding like my self-awareness to kind of what I think Fox does. So
Mm.
if you think of all the students that Fox has, right? He's got a couple of hundred, and especially since he has different locations.
Yes.
It's interesting how Fox knows all his students. I definitely don't think I would have the capacity to know all of my students, especially if it was a few hundred.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he doesn't just know like your name. He knows even just the little subtleties about each of his students, right? He knows it to the point where like if he were to roll or watch us roll, he would know, how I would roll depending on my personality, how I would roll depending on how I walk through the doors that day. So like I think I've taken that into my personal life just to understand like the little nuances of the day, the little subtleties of the
Mm.
day, the little subtleties of my life and how I interact with other people. And that's probably like the biggest change that I've implemented into like my personal life.
Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. My next question is, what are your current goals right now in your martial arts journey? I mean, you mentioned a lot about purple belt and getting more comfortable in it, but I'm curious, what else is on the site for you? And I know like whatever you say, I'll bet on it's gonna get done.
Um, I think just to improve my game, I still feel like there's so much I don't know. I feel like there's
Hmm.
so much I do wrong. So I think it's just like getting better, enhancing my game, perfecting my skill, just learning more,
Yep.
um,
Yep.
being just a little bit more humble.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm gonna ask you another question, and I kind of know this answer already, just because like I've had the opportunity to hang out with you, but you know, outside of the academy. But how has martial arts inspired you to become more active, within your community or social groups?
Yeah, it's built my friend group.
Yeah. Which, by the way, it's a blast hanging out with you. What was it that we were at Jersey City? Whose birthday was it? I don't remember, but it was. I think we were bar hopping. It's pretty cool.
Wasn't that for your birthday?
I don't know. I guess I don't even know. I don't remember, but I just remember like bar hopping. I was like, oh, I feel young again.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it brought me back to like when I was in the Marine Corps. Like we used to bar hop, but it was so good. Like such a good group. I
Yeah.
miss it a lot.
We all get along. We all have a good time. We just
Yes.
all laugh. Yeah, it's
Yes. Yeah.
like I said, I don't know if the stars could have aligned better for me to have found Silver Fox, and for us all
Uh,
to have the group that we have. It just, the boys are just such a unique, and I
yes.
be mama bear to all of them and
Yes. Yes.
just they're sweet, they're caring, they're funny, and they're kind. And, especially like on the mats, they look out for everyone. No one's trying to hurt anyone.
Right.
There's such a deep level of trust. So I'm
Yeah.
really
Yeah, no, for sure. And they're very caring too. I mean, you already mentioned that, like, when I was talking to Gideon, he mentioned like how he likes going to grapple there because like there's times where he's having a rough day and people teach him, right? And then when he sees other people struggling, he helps them as well. So, and like I was telling him, it's a great positive vicious cycle, like everyone is helping everybody and everyone is supporting each other. And I think it's really important. You really highlighted something that, it is true. As you get older, it gets more difficult to create new friends. Not only that, but also, at least in my experience, the older you get, I feel like my social circle gets smaller, smaller, and smaller. So you're just doing different things, at different times of your life, and it is more challenging to make new friends. But I think it's so beautiful, to do jujitsu or do martial arts in general because that is an opportunity to constantly meet new people and create strong relationships with the folks that you already know, you know. Hence, like I don't even go with you to the same academy, and I still hit you up, you
yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah, but and I guess now we're going to move on to the advice section. So I also want to be mindful of time. But now let's think about, what advice you would give to someone right now that is thinking about starting, to do martial arts and they feel unsure, they think that they're not qualified, whatever that means to do martial arts.
I would say just do it. And I think just going back to what we said before, you definitely have to try out different academies.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, Silver
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fox was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But don't be discouraged if you try an academy and it's not the right one. Like jujitsu is a beautiful art. And there are great academies. And if you don't find one that you're comfortable at, definitely try another one. Don't give up so soon. And give yourself grace and time. Don't be hard on yourself. and just enjoy the journey because it is a journey. This is something that the most beautiful aspect of jujitsu is you'll never stop learning. So it's a lifelong commitment. So just continue, just do it and continue, and you'll be extremely happy.
God damn, so many wisdom nuggets there because I Jesus. Um no, because it's so true, like martial arts, jiu-jitsu, it's a life learning art, but I feel like if you really want to grow, like that's also how you should approach life. Like just constantly be a student of life,
Right,
and I think you mentioned something that I want to highlight that is really important. And I'll be honest, like I still struggle with this, which is like being kind to yourself.
right,
Like I would say that I have a similar common ground with you in terms of like if I want something, like I'm determined, I go get it. But I don't know about you, I speak for myself. A lot of times I'm not too kind or speak to myself too kindly along the process to get it done. And I think that's what I'm working with my therapist is like, okay, you got it done, but at what cost? Like that's not, you got to deal with so many things you got to repair now. Yeah, you got it done, but was it worth it? Is that the right approach? Is it sustainable? And honestly, like I want to, you know, highlight what you said even more because we live in a world that is already cruel. And, I think jujitsu, as you mentioned already, is so important because it allows us to constantly practice that ability of being kind with ourselves and just stay in the course no matter what. Yeah, I mean, like what you said is so packed. Like I would take so much just to unpack it. But it's so true. Now, I want to touch upon this because this question that I'm asking you right now came from a conversation that I had with I visited a friend, a couple of friends from high school. So we've been friends now for like what, like 25 years. And after we were watching UFC, he's like, "Hey, so what? Like, when are you gonna go and fight UFC?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No, bro. Like, I don't do this to fight. Like, it's for me, it's therapeutic." But it made me think about it as I was thinking about this series, like, the misconceptions that people that are not part of this world that they have about us. So, having that said, and that was the backstory to this question that I have for you is, what do you think people often misunderstand about martial arts when they're first considering it?
one interesting conversation I had with someone who watches UFC fights, who listens to Joe Rogan, and
Hmm,
is
hmm.
part of like that culture, who's never practiced jujitsu, is he said to me, "Oh, this is something that you can use and you can kill somebody." And like
God
you
dang
are
it.
you are like invincible. And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is probably the biggest misconception.
Yeah.
Do I feel more confident that I could last a little bit longer defending myself? Yes. Am I invincible? Absolutely not. Um, this is not a magic solution to, any scenario.
Hmm, hmm.
The biggest takeaway from any martial arts is you definitely want to avoid being in a situation where your life is at stake.
Yeah.
But if you're in a situation where you need to defend yourself, you have a skill set to try to do so. So I think that's the biggest misconception is that this is like some sort of magic trick that you can like defeat anyone that you would want to. So
Right, right. No, that's really important to highlight. Just because you do martial arts, you're not invincible. It's not doesn't mean that you never lose a fight.
right.
um, or that you're just going to use it to fight. As we talked about it here, it's so much more than learning how to fight, learning how to defend yourself is not the outcome, is who you become in the journey to achieve that outcome. And I think that is really the beauty of martial arts. Like to see, the change, like the powerful story that you just shared with us, about, how you healed that little girl, like that, like through martial arts. Like that's really what I want people to be aware. Like that is, in my opinion, the real power of martial arts. And I'm glad you were able to share it. Now, having that said, and I'm not sure if I really asked this question in the beginning, but how long you've been doing jujitsu for? Because I mean, we already talked about it, like you're a purple belt, but how long you've been doing it for?
A little bit over 3 years.
A little bit over 3 years, which is phenomenal. 3 years purple belt. But having that said, and knowing everything that you know now after 3 years being in the game, what would you tell yourself right before starting that, you wish you knew in the beginning, given your experience now?
You're making the best decision for yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
change into the best version of yourself.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I hope that, for people that are watching this, like that can be the same story for them as they think about it, and they look back in their own personal stories. So I love that. I love that. You shared so many, like I said, wisdom nuggets, and I'm looking at this question. Um, but I feel like you already answered it. Like, and I'm just curious if there is anything that stands out for you. Like, what is the most valuable lesson martial arts has taught you that others should know about?
I can't think of one thing off the top of my head. I think, again, if we just speak to the culture at the academy, right? When one of my favorite instructors was leaving, in his speech, he said, just the way that we have always been at the academy, just to be kind, right? Because it's
Mm,
part of our culture. And that's something you could take away in life, right? For such an aggressive art, the one thing you want to be is kind. And I think that just reaches across every martial art and in life. So,
100%. 100%. I agree with that. Like, that's how you get to be a better human being, you know?
yeah,
And nobody would think that. I mean, I know I didn't think that, like, coming into martial arts, that I was going to have the privilege to meet so many kind people and to
right.
share that with me, you know? So I think it's really powerful. Is there any question or anything that you feel like you want to add on that I haven't asked you that you feel like people should know about you, your martial arts story, or in general?
No, the one thing I would say, I try to tell, especially women my age, like other mothers, to start to try it. And I also like joke with girlfriends of like some of the guys that I think I've even told your fiance when we
Yeah.
all try it. Like I think a lot of women find it daunting, like and maybe just for me again, like going back to the fact that I've always been a tomboy, like it doesn't bother me to grapple with men, but I think because it's such a great sport to get involved in, it's such a shame that more women don't participate. So I think just one thing I would definitely want to say is I think more women definitely give it a try. It's such a great sport to be involved in. It's such an empowering thing. So
I appreciate that. I think I was hoping that you were gonna say something like that, in terms of like speaking to women, because in ways that only you can do it, and I feel like I agree with you. Like everybody should try it. At least once and to see if it's a good fit. And I think that we probably both talk about it because we know the benefits that it has brought to our life. So we just want that for other people, you know. I think that's really where it comes from.
yeah, like if my
And
daughter has come to the academy and she's enjoyed it, and I've wanted her to
yeah.
try the academy by her as well. So
Yeah, yeah. And one thing I'll call out, I mean, I don't know how relevant this is, but like I've grappled with you. Your technique is fire. You've choked the shit out of me. Um, and and no, it's really humbling. I think this might sound weird, but when other people that are smaller than me like tap me out, it makes me love jujitsu more because I'm like, that means that if I get good, when I get good, then I'll be able to go against bigger opponents because it highlights, the power of jiu-jitsu. And I also feel like we all need a dose of humility. yeah, like it's been impressive grappling with you. Like I am at least like 60 pounds heavier than you. I'm pretty sure a lot more than that. But in jiu-jitsu, that doesn't mean shit.
Mm.
Anyway, but Yvette, thank you so much for sharing your story. I feel bad because I probably kept you late at work, but
No, it's
I appreciate it.